The following is a presentation on the DonnieSport 17 Network.
Welcome to the football show on the DonnieSport 17 Network on YouTube. Woo!
Football season is halfway done, and as the historic college football playoff is about to release their first poll, meaning which four teams has the edge on coming to Dallas for the big college football championship game on January the 12th, 2015. We will find out. And a couple of the officials of the college football playoff, two folks that were very much involved in the selection process, will address the media. Lots of things coming up here on this special edition of the DonnieSport Football Show.
CFP Selection Committee, Jeff Holmes. Jeff?
Thank you, Bill. Okay, well, great to be with you guys. As Bill said, we've just completed 2 days of some great meetings. Let me just share with you a little bit. The College Football Playoff Selection Committee met for the past 2 days, and we engaged in what I would call lively and detailed discussion about who the best teams are in college football as of October 25th. You know, we debated, we reviewed the facts, we looked at stats, and then we used our judgment to make a determination. But let me tell you, it was extremely difficult. I think more difficult than any of us expected, having gone through our mock process before. There are 18 one-loss teams in FBS at this point in time, and the difference between many of them is very slight. Before I tell you what the committee decided, it's important to recognize that this is the first of 7 rankings that our committee will do. This means there's a lot more football to be played, a lot more great wins, and a lot more difficult losses to be played out. So everyone on the selection committee recognized that our rankings will change over the next 6 weeks. I think that's important for me to emphasize. We expect our rankings to change over the next 6 weeks. 1 week's rankings won't influence the next week's rankings. We will review team performances again next week, and that's important to keep in mind here at this point in time. And the bottom line is, it's early, it's close, and it's going to change as we move forward. There's a lot of time for other teams to make their way into the top 4 and into the top 25. We'll see movement up and down the ladder, so to speak. This committee's job is to rank top 25, and we've done so. And throughout the meeting, much of our discussion was focused on detailed examination of criteria, such as a team's strength of schedule, significant wins and losses, quality wins on the road, head-to-head matchups, results versus common opponents, and other factors that came into our discussion. Conference championships won will be an additional factor, of course. That won't come into play until the weekend of December 6th and 7th. So the top-ranked team today is Mississippi State. The second-ranked team is Florida State. The third-ranked team is Auburn, and the fourth-ranked team is Ole Miss. You should already have received the top 25 rankings at your table, those of you who are in the room, but let me share with you a little bit of our thinking. The committee thought it was clear-cut for Mississippi State and Florida State to fill the 1 and 2 positions. And Auburn stood out in number 3. The gap among Ole Miss at 4, Oregon at 5, and Alabama at 6 is paper thin. Ole Miss's loss on the road at a very difficult place to play, LSU, while Oregon's loss was at home. Ole Miss had a significant win against Alabama, and Oregon's significant win was against Michigan State. Alabama's best win was against West Virginia, and of course, they lost at Ole Miss. Alabama's best win was at West Virginia, and of course, I said that. And while Oregon had two good wins versus Michigan State and UCLA on the road. And again, keep in mind, we'll be back next week. We will have reviewed more games, more wins, more losses, more statistics, and we will begin the process from the beginning. We'll have a clean sheet of paper as we begin our deliberations next week. This was our first meeting, and it was a good, solid football discussions were had over the first 2 days. And I really appreciate all the work the committee has done to prepare for these meetings. They watched hours and hours of tape. They came prepared with talking points and notes that they made from watching games. And we discussed openly our differences of opinion about particular teams and those wins and losses. And all of that showed in our discussions. There were many references to the ins and outs of games and specific instances in games that resulted in a win or a loss. Again, the last thing I'll say before I take questions is, again, it's early, it's close, and it's going to change. So with that, I will be happy to entertain some questions.
Jeff, I know I asked you about this yesterday, but now that we have the numbers, can you just explain the variance between number 5 Oregon and number 12 Arizona and number 7 TCU, number 13?
Let's ask them one at a time. First one is Arizona,
For obvious reasons.
Oregon, Arizona.
Right.
Yes. When we look at Oregon and Arizona, if you look at Oregon, we think they had two significant wins. They had the UCLA win on the road, as well as the Michigan State win at home. In Arizona, while they did beat them, the rest of the body of their work is not as strong. So at this point in time, again, I'll keep emphasizing at this point in time, we believe Oregon is deserving of that number 5 ranking.
And then the same question for 7 TCU and 13 Baylor.
7 TCU and 13 Baylor. Yes, again, it goes back to who the teams have played at this point. If you look at Baylor's schedule, they have not had a strong schedule outside of their win against TCU. So TCU has gone on and had other victories that, again, in the committee's view, moved them higher in the ranking. So it's important. Head-to-head is important, but there are other factors that go into head-to-head, and it's not head-to-head alone.
Other questions?
Jeff, how much do you feel that, let's just put up, you keep saying well, there's going to be 6 more leagues, and honestly, we get that. But if there were going to be a tournament now, y'all would be, satisfied with these 4 teams being in the tournament?
Absolutely. Based on their work thus far, yes, we're very confident of our first 4. No question.
Thoughts on Marshall, one of only 3 undefeated, not even in the top 25.
Question about Marshall. Yes, we had a lot of consideration of Marshall. Obviously, they are 8-0. But again, as we looked at them, we compared their schedule, who they played to this point, and compared it against others. We did not think it was worthy of being placed in the top 25 at this time.
Jeff, one takeaway, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the committee is valuing wins, maybe over that one loss, and you're looking at who a team is beating.
Yeah, I think we're looking at wins and who you're beating, and then also looking at losses and who you're losing to. So, it may seem obvious, but, if you're winning and if you're playing good teams and winning, that's important. That's more important than playing a so-so team. And then obviously, a close loss against a quality opponent does sit well with the committee, and we ranked accordingly.
Jeff, you mentioned that LSU's played, I guess, 3 of the top 4 in these rankings.
Mm-hmm.
Only one of them did they have a blowout loss to, yet they have 2 losses. So
Yeah.
that blowout loss for LSU is what has weighed them down to the 19th position.
Yeah, I think the 2 losses is really what has brought them down. We have, 16 teams with 1 loss. So I think that winning is important, and I think our ranking demonstrates that. But again, it is very close between, 1-loss teams. And again, we have a large number of them to review and compare against each other. Again, as we all know, as this plays out, there'll be more losses on those records.
So a two-loss team would not be ahead of a one-loss team, despite the quality of the.
No, I wouldn't say that, because I think we actually do have, two-loss teams ranked above one-loss teams. But again, it's that quality of their wins, and then where their losses stack up in the quality of those losses, so to speak.
Yeah, Jeff, I wanted to ask you, said the margin between 4 through 6 was paper thin. How about the difference between 6 and 7 when TCU gets in there, and just what about TCU's schedule kind of caught your eye more so than Baylor's?
Well, I think that they've got wins at Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, and that was a close loss at Baylor. So I think those factored in. And then, I'm sorry.
How far between them? Is that your gap there?
I think there's a small gap, not a large one. We looked at that and discussed that on a number of different occasions. Those of you who participated in the mocks know we sometimes revote. We did do some revotes in that section, but we really spent a lot more time discussing it and then discussing those teams, and really through those discussions, it didn't warrant a revote.
George?
Yeah, wondered, did you take, for example, with the Oregon Arizona thing, did you take injuries into consideration? I'm interested in that criteria.
Certainly, yeah. Injuries, personnel, their availability during games is a factor. We certainly discussed the offensive linemen that have been out at Oregon, and the fact that I think 2 of them, if not 3, are all back now. So that is a factor. Certainly it is. But again, it doesn't take precedent. But it's a factor. We certainly discussed that. We certainly discussed the team's, Oregon's performance without those players in the game and what it meant to the loss to Arizona.
Process question, is there anything that you look back on and you think, okay, we'll streamline this going forward because we've seen how it works or not?
No, the process won't change. And again, we were very confident about that. We're staying the course on that, on the process. We will start as if we walked into the room next week with a clean slate. So we'll start preparing that group of 25 teams, and then we'll vote those in, and then we'll start from the top and go through.
Chuck?
Jeff, is there any way of knowing right now how much the emphasis on conference champions could skew things for the final poll? I mean, at this point, it's all very theoretical. I mean, is it breaking could be so much on conference champs that you could have just 4 conference champs there?
Again, it's very difficult, Chuck, to speculate this far out to that championship weekend and what a conference champion is going to mean. We'll just have to look at that on December 6th and 7th and factor that in. It is something going into that weekend that will be determined basically that weekend, and we'll have to apply that.
Jeff, did it ever get very testy in there, and you guys need a sergeant at arms?
No, never testy. We had a lot of serious debate. I mean, at some point, I will say one committee member was talking about the roll-up corner and the coach's call that resulted in a pick and maybe a pick 6, and so we had a lot. I mean, I want to give you an idea of the kind of discussion we had. I mean, we had a non-coach talking about, why is that coach rushing 3, dropping 8? Can't you see how it's killing them? And one of the committee members that some people question often was debating with another coach about that process of rushing 3, dropping 8. And she also did mention the roll-up corner and the interception. So that's the kind of discussion we had. It was great, but it was intense too. I don't want to paint a picture like we were all joking around. We really weren't. There is some humor that enters the room, but it's very serious, and I think everybody in that room understands the weight of our decision, especially as we get closer to that weekend of December 6th and 7th, and the ultimate selection on December 7th.
We have time for 2 more questions.
Let me get you another, Jeff. Notre Dame at number 6, when their coach has been very vocal about how controversial he viewed their loss, which is their only loss to one of your top 2 teams. How, they're a little higher than that in the polls, not that that's significant, but Notre Dame at 10, can you speak?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I thought you said Notre Dame at 6, and I said
Notre Dame at 10.
Notre Dame at 10, yes. Again, they have, if you look at their resume, they have a close loss at Florida State, and it was a loss, a close one. Then you look at their other opponents that they played. Again, at this time, we think a 10 rank for them is good. They certainly have quality opponents upcoming in their schedule, and they'll have a chance again, like many teams on this list, have a chance to play themselves up the ladder or down the ladder.
Bill, one more question. Chuck?
Jeff, how much volatility would you expect week to week in this sort of thing? We're kind of used to the poll where it's kind of incremental. Can we see major jumps back and forth in this?
Well, I'll answer that this way, Chuck. We will certainly go into that room probably differently than any of the polls in the past. We will go in there again. I'll emphasize the clean slate. We will take the new information from this week's games, we will apply it to those teams, and we will start our process looking and comparing teams against teams and arrive with our rankings. So, you know, you take from that what you will. My opinion is, I don't know. I guess it's all how you define volatile. I think there will be movement, maybe more so than there has been in the past.
I wonder if there's any discussion in the room at all about the, what it means or doesn't mean to have sub-division one conference ranked near the top of the poll.
Yeah, again, we didn't look at it as a conference issue, George. We don't. We compared those teams against each other, teams within their conference and outside their conference. So, again, there's a lot of talk about a conference. We understand that, but again, in the committee room, it's really not a conference debate. It's a team versus who they played, won and lost to.
Great, thank you.
Thank you all very much. Look forward to seeing
Bill
you
will be
again.
available for questions right now as well. We'll keep him in the room. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh boy. Well, there you have it. College football playoffs first poll, and yes, it's an eye-opener. But let me break it down for you. Locally, TCU is at number 7. They're on a good spot. They ranked them higher than Baylor, who, by the way, beat TCU, despite the fact, well, Jeff Long explained the reason why TCU was ranked number 7, because they had a little bit more of a challenging schedule compared to TCU. But here are the top 4 teams: Mississippi State, Florida State, Auburn, and Ole Miss. There is an SEC flavor to it. Oregon and Alabama are 5 and 6 in that order. And counting 5 Big 12 teams are in the top 25 in this college football playoff. And if you want to know who's the bottom team in this group, Louisville. So some dates to look forward to. So if you want to buckle up for football, here you go. They picked the teams on December the 7th. January the 1st, the Cotton Bowl will have the semifinals. And on January the 12th, 2015, they will play for real. And there's a championship that's going to be won on that date. So a lot of things really cooking in college football, and this is the beginning of something new. And if you're a fan, it's going to be a wild ride. And if you have a favorite team in the top 25, it's going to be much wilder. And just stay right here at the DonnieSport Football Show. We're going to keep you up to speed, as this is like one stop on the road to the big championship game in DFW. And just stay right here. Thank you for watching this special edition of the DonnieSport Football Show here on the DonnieSport 17 Network.